Welcome into Bet on It Bahamas edition. Well, at least for me. So apologies if there's any tech issues. You guys know I love you and I wouldn't miss this show for the world. It is week 11. I cannot believe how fast this season is going by. Vegas Chris is going to teach us a thing or two with VR's Gold. Are you high? Is the deli open? Maybe we have a trap game. And of course, we're going to finish up with some of those best bets. Let's bring in Marco D'Angelo at Marco in Vegas and Joe Raineri at Joe Raineri on Twitter. Make sure you guys are giving both of them a follow. Let's get right into those primetime games. Cincinnati at Baltimore, Thursday night football. Baltimore currently a 3.5-point favorite, total of 46. We're going to get into this one from my side of things in the best bet segment. But Marco, I got to hear who you like first because you are our AFC North specialist.
When you look at this one on Thursday night, you see Cincinnati sitting at 5-4, and you've got Baltimore sitting at 7-3. If Baltimore wins and goes to 8-3 and drops Cincy to 5-5, that 3-game lead is actually a 4-game lead because Baltimore already beat Cincinnati. It was back in week number 2. Now, if you remember the Cincinnati Bengals in week number 2 and the Cincinnati Bengals now, they're not the same team. Why? Because back then, Joe Burrow was basically a one-legged quarterback, no mobility at all, and the team suffered. They did lose that first meeting, but it was close, 27-24. And that was, as I said, with a one-legged Joe Burrow. Now you've got them in this matchup. Both teams are coming off of bad-looking losses. But I've got to say, which one stung more? Baltimore, who blew a 15 and a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, or Cincinnati? Well, you know what? I can't make an excuse for Baltimore's collapse. The Cincinnati game, do you think possibly Cincinnati went into that game against Houston kind of looking ahead to the Baltimore rematch? After all, they were just coming off back-to-back big wins, were the Cincinnati Bengals, as they beat San Francisco 2 weeks beforehand, and then they beat Buffalo, and you know the history with Buffalo with that Monday night game, the playoff game and everything. Those were 2 big games, and Baltimore on deck. Yeah, Cincinnati was in a sandwich spot last week. I look for them to bounce back this week, and here is the key stat for me in this game. Cincinnati, as an underdog of 3.5 to 9.5 points the last 3 seasons. How about a perfect 8-0 against the spread? Give me the Bengals. I got them winning 24-23. Finally, a Thursday night game we can get excited about.
Joe, both of these teams off just rather horrific losses. Cincinnati had a chance to come back versus the Texans, and Baltimore just stayed in the locker room in the second half. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, horrific doesn't even begin to describe how bad those losses were by these two teams last week there, Cal, between Cincinnati. How you doing, Taj Boyd? Everything you feeling okay? Just checking in on you, making sure it's all good. Butterfingers there. But listen, the bottom line is now they got a short week, and now they've got to take on one another for, like Marco said, the second time in the season. Now, usually, and we all know, it's not, unless you've been under a rock, we all know the scoring on Thursday nights this season are at historic lows. They are usually terrible to begin with, but over a 70% clip to the under on these primetime games here, these night games, and Thursday night usually features 2 teams that may not know one another, and you don't generally get the best kind of football. Well, you can throw that out the window here. The fact that this is a short week means nothing to these 2 teams. They're division rivals, and nobody knows one another better than they do. So the short week is not going to play into this at all. What we do have, though, like Marco pointed out, is 2 totally different teams than that first go-around. And you don't have to look any further than what Cincinnati has been able to do offensively with a healthy Joe Burrow. He's averaging nearly 300 yards in the last 5 games, 12 touchdowns, 4 INTs, and we all know the Ravens offense has been absolutely clicking. They are a very difficult team to slow down. So that's why I'm going to focus on the total here. Now, it opened up 44, and if you were able to jump on that number, congratulations. It's at 46 now. It got steamed almost immediately. Why? Because this is not your average primetime game where we automatically are going to look at the under. The Jets and the Raiders and the Giants are not involved in this game. It is two of the better offenses, two of the better coaching staffs, with more weapons than we know what to do with, and they are going to do battle here. And I love the over, not only for the full game, but I love it in the first half. 21.5, and we have seen what the scripted portion of the game looks like for Cincinnati as well as Baltimore. I have no doubt both of these offenses are going to be able to move the ball early and are going to have success putting points on the board. I only need 3 touchdowns and mix in a Tucker field goal or a McPherson field goal. I'm good. I think this thing flies over the total in the first half. Love the total for the full game. I think that's the best way to approach this matchup on Thursday night, and that's where I'm looking in this one.
Sunday night prime time. That's right. Ooh, this one's going to be a barn burner. Minnesota Vikings at Denver. Denver, a 2-point favorite. Joe Raineri, total 43. Last time the Broncos were a favorite, I laid it with them versus the Commanders, and you know how that one ended. Can Josh Dobbs and the Minnesota Vikings get a win here in Denver?
Well, we just talked about it, right? Cincinnati and Baltimore on a Thursday night primetime game. I wouldn't even dare look at the under in this one. But here we are at a Sunday night primetime game, and we're looking at the Broncos and Josh Dobbs and the Minnesota Vikings, and that's all I would dare look at in this one is the under, and it's already started to come down. It's down to 43. It was opened up right around 45 and a half, starting to come down already in the marketplace, and I get it. Listen, did we learn anything about Denver against Buffalo there on Monday night? What did we learn? Well, the defense has figured some things out here, have they not? Vance Joseph has got these guys in a position to be successful. They play hard-nosed football. They're stripping the ball. They're intercepting the ball. They are doing an amazing job, given that weak-ass offense of the Denver Broncos an opportunity to win games that, well, they probably shouldn't be. But they have another opportunity here against a backup to a backup to a backup quarterback now, who the New Orleans Saints defense made look like Joe Montana. It's kind of head-scratching, but I do think enough tape now here on Dobbs and what they're going to be doing in Minnesota is going to be a little bit different with this Denver defense than what it was against the New Orleans defense. Stop turning your back to Josh Dobbs and covering receivers, because the minute you do, guess what Josh Dobbs does? He takes off, and he makes life very difficult for defenses because they don't know where he is. I do not think that's going to happen. I think Denver and Vance Joseph are going to have a spy on him at all times. If the threat of the run is not there for Dobbs, then this is a totally one-dimensional quarterback along with the offense here. And I think that's what we're going to get. Don't really need to tell you just how inept we know Russell Wilson can be at times. He is most successful when he's doing 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives, taking up a lot of clock. Classic Sean Payton, classic Denver Bronco offense, and I think that's what you're going to get in this one. Lot less scoring on this Sunday night primetime game. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Sunday night, under. Where have we heard that before? But that's where I'm looking. Under 43 in this one.
Marco, I said on the Fade with Clay Travis, week 1, friends don't let friends lay points with the Denver Broncos. But here I am asking you, should we be laying points here with the Denver Broncos?
Well, Kelly, no. Friends don't let friends lay points with the Denver Broncos. But you know what friends do? They tell their friends to tease the dog up over a touchdown against this Denver offense. That's the way we're going to look at this one. We talked about it in several games last week, and this is another one. It's a Sunday night game. I'm going to have a lot of teasers working to the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday night. And why not? I know Denver's won 3 in a row, but let's really look at that 3-game winning streak. They were life and death to beat Green Bay. they squeaked out a 2-point win against Green Bay. Yeah, they had the impressive win over Kansas City, but let's put that in perspective. Kansas City just beat them 2 weeks beforehand on a Thursday night game. Then Kansas City played the Chargers. You know that that's the team that they fear the most in this division. And then Kansas City had Denver with Miami on deck. They got caught looking ahead to that Miami game in Germany. Pure and simple. And then, do I have to say anything about the Monday Night Football game if you watched it? Denver didn't beat Buffalo. Buffalo beat Buffalo with 4 turnovers and stupid penalties at the wrong time of the game. No, I'm not buying it. Joshua Dobbs, what a story it's been. How long can it last? I don't know, but I'm going to go with what Joe says. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This team is buying into Josh Dobbs. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder. I'm not stepping in front of the Vikings. Give me the Vikings. I'm teasing them up. This gets you through all of the key numbers of 3, 4, 6, and 7 in a game that, by the way, has a very low total. So points are at a premium. Tease Minnesota up. That means come Sunday night, you can evaluate all of those live teasers going into Minnesota and give yourself an opportunity. If you want to go for a hedge on some of it, you can come back with Denver on a money line or minus the 1.5, 2 points, wherever it settles on Sunday night for a middle. That's what I'm doing with Sunday Night Football.
Woohoo! We finally have a good Monday night football game. Philadelphia Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City -3 currently on the Wager Talk odds screen. Total 46.5. Marco, let's break this one down.
That's right, Kelly. We finally do have a good Monday night football game. It is the Super Bowl rematch. Remember back in week 1, that Thursday night game when everybody was screaming, why did we have Detroit and Kansas City as the opening game for the season? Why didn't we have this one? Well, this is why. Because we're well into the season. These two have established themselves as the 2 favorites to go back to the Super Bowl. And here we have them on a key Monday night clash. What could be better? Well, I'll be honest with you guys. When I looked at this game, I started out on Philadelphia, and why not? Super Bowl revenge. They did everything in that game but win the game. But then I got to thinking about it. Yeah, minus the Super Bowl revenge, you think back, they did do everything but win that game. How could they possibly duplicate that performance? And remember, that was on a neutral field. Now they're playing in Kansas City. What's the difference between these 2 teams from last year to this year? They're pretty much the same except for one thing, that Kansas City defense. And as much as I wanted to say, hey, they were doing it with smoke and mirrors, I can't say that anymore. This defense is for real. They are ranked number 5 in here, and they are looking at defense that has been shut down against everybody. Offensively, they're about the same 2 teams. One's ranked 8th at yards per play, Kansas City. Philly's ranked 11th. But defensively, that's where the difference is Kansas City is 5th, and KC is ranked 22nd. Jalen Hurts killed them with his feet last year in that game, plus he threw for over 300 yards in that game. I don't see that happening the second time. I'm going to take Kansas City. I'm going to lay the points. I'm sorry, Dan. I know my mic's going silent for the rest of this show after this prediction, but it's Kansas City 27-20. Maybe I'll come around for Philly whenever they have the rematch in the Super Bowl.
Joe Raineri, outside of that Jets loss, Philadelphia has just been rocking and rolling all season long. Do you think they can get the job done here in Kansas City?
Well, sure, they could. I doesn't necessarily mean they're going to. And listen, I was hoping that we'd be into this game with the Eagles with a couple of more losses outside of just the Jets loss here. But no, they've gotten a lot of things going their way this year. Now we've got both of these teams coming out of a bye situation here, trying to work on some things. And I really don't know what else is there for these 2 teams to do at this point. I don't trust Kansas City's offense, and here we are into week 11. There are issues. Anybody that watched that Miami game in Germany, watching that end of the game and watching the defense of Kansas City have to go out there for the final 2 to 3 minutes of a game and be able to get it done while Patrick Mahomes was on the sideline. That third and fourth quarter in that game, they scored no points. None. It wasn't like they were injured. It wasn't like Mahomes was hobbled. No, they scored no points. There is something off about this Kansas City Chiefs offense, and they were playing the Miami defense. They're certainly not going to be playing the Philadelphia defense, which is going to make life a little bit more difficult, I think, here for Mahomes and company. Now, I think the path for victory for both of these teams is very simple. Keep the other defense, and we've got two excellent defenses here, top-ranked defenses in the NFL going at it. I think the key is ball control, time of possession. I don't see this being what we got in the Super Bowl as a shootout. I don't see, like Marco said, I don't see Jalen Hurts, rushing for 100 yards, throwing for 400? Like, I don't see that happening either. I think this is going to be all about defense, field position, time of possession. And I think it's all going to happen in the second half for whoever goes on to win this game. And I think the first half is not a bad way to look here, because I still think both offenses are going to struggle a little bit against these defenses out of the gate. So I'm going to look at the first half in this one. I'm going to go under the 23.5. I think there's going to have to be some adjustments in the second half by both these offenses against these two elite defenses. So I'm leaning the under in this big Monday night matchup.
Now those primetime games are broken down. It is time for TNA with Ralph Michaels, the birthday boy. Ralph turned 60 this week, but you guys get the present. 7 days all access pass for under $9 per day. That is only $60 because, of course, Ralph is 60. Happy birthday to Ralph. And again, I apologize like I did on the college football show that I forgot my nerd glasses. Hopefully that doesn't deter you from giving us all of those charts in TNA.
Hey guys, welcome. NFL streakers always start us off. Jeff posts them at JM Sports CLE on Twitter. Obviously, the streakers are nowhere near the level of college football. Only one team with at least 100% ATS record over the last 4 games. The Minnesota Vikings have covered 5 straight. The Bills failed to cover 6 straight games against the spread. Unders, Kansas City with 5 straight unders, and Denver and the New York Jets with 4 straight unders. Last week here on the show, we talked about the long teasers and the records. Well, several of you have reached out, so here we go. Now, you rarely look at NFL teams and say, this is a team I'm going to tease regardless of what the record is, because there's certain categories that are better, and when you're looking at teasers, breaking them down. So you're not going to blindly say, hey, I'm going to bet the Vikings every week. But it is important to note what a team's record is with a teaser record, both good and bad. So this chart has the team's ATS records, a 6-point teaser record, and a 10-point teaser record. Remember, individual legs of the teasers need to cover about 75% to be profitable. So let's take a look at the teams that have lost only 1 game if you were playing them as a 6-point teaser. The Vikings, the Chargers, the Eagles, and the Chiefs. One thing surprising, the Chargers might only be 4-5 against the spread, but they're 8-1 with a teaser. And take a look at the Patriots, the 5th team down on the chart. They are only 2-8 ATS, but they're 8-2 as far as 6-point teasers go. That shows you how many of those games were right around the Las Vegas number. On the flip side, the weakest of teams are 5-5 with a 6-point teaser. Those are the Bills, the Falcons, and the Giants. Some teams, even if they are in a good teaser situation, look to stay away from in that role. Again, I also have the 10-point teaser records for you. I'm surprised only 2 teams have a 100% ATS record with the 10-point teasers. That's the Vikings and the Chargers. The worst record, the New York Giants, even with a 10-point teaser, they are 6-4. So, broke down some teaser data for you last week. Another teaser week for you this week. And again, this chart and all the TNA posted on my homepage on the Bet On It TNA PDF every Thursday morning. While you're on my homepage, do also check out, it is my birthday week, 7 days all access, just $60. That's under $9 per day. No coupon needed. Just head to my page. I do have a 5%, which will be loaded Thursday morning in college football. That play by itself, $35. Why not take advantage? 7 days, all sports, under $9 a day. And let's finish off the TNA segment with 4 NFL systems and situations. A good team is a team that has a win percentage of 65% or higher, over 65%. When you look at teams that are off a loss as a home favorite from week 8 on and later and have a win percentage over 65% going back to 2015, those teams like the Baltimore Ravens have gone 29-15, 65.9%. System that makes total sense. A solid team off a loss as a home favorite does bounces back to the tune of 29-15 against the spread, 65.9%. System 2. Play against a team, that has double revenge versus a division foe, and they're a small favorite from -1 to -6. Who does that fit? That fits the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns lost the final game of last year. Cleveland Browns lost to Pittsburgh earlier this week. They are now a favorite. Even with Watson out, they're still a small favorite. And you could be a favorite up to -6. Those teams just 20-50, 28.6%. System 2 says to fade the Cleveland Browns. System 3. Doesn't happen very often in a season where we have teams that both won as a dog and now playing each other. Well, when two teams are both off a win as a dog and there's a favorite up to -7, so you're a small favorite home or away up to -7, those teams have gone 67.9%. So system 3, when both teams are off a win as a dog, it says to play on a small favorite to the tune of 67.9% against the spread, going 36-17 since 2014. It says to play on the Texans and play on the Broncos, actually 2 teams to fit that mold. And our 4th situation, I want to talk over-unders. Last week was only the 3rd week in the last 20 weeks where NFL over-unders have hit over 50%. That's an amazing mark. But did you know that since 2017, excluding the COVID year, because weird things happened with the totals, if you blindly played the under when both teams went over the total the previous week, you have gone over under 222 and 316. That's 41.3% to the over or 58.7% to the under. It doesn't get simpler. You just look at the teams that played last week. If both teams went over the total, 57.7% of the games have gone under. It applies to 6 teams this week: Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, LA Chargers, Washington Giants, Houston and Arizona, and Falcons and Saints. All match up that both went under. So system 1, play on the Ravens, off a loss as a home favorite. System 2, fade the Browns, double revenge, doesn't mean anything here. System 3, both teams off a win as a dog, you play the small favorite. And system 4, look to play the under when both teams went over the total this past week. Appreciate you for tuning in for the NFL TNA segment.
Again, happy birthday to Ralph. Jump in the comments. Let him know that you guys love him so much like we do here on Bet On It. Again, Ralph's all access pass for his birthday, just $60 for the week. We're going to pivot. We're going to go to the prop shop because Andy Lang's got to help me out with all my fantasy and better picks lineups. He's the best for this one. Andy, well, we got to go Thursday Night Football, and I apologize because normally we go over my best bet, and then you give your best bet, and we talk Thursday night, but this one's kind of one and the same. Who do you like for Thursday Night Football?
Thank you, Kelly. Hope you enjoy your vacation. Hope you don't get sunburnt. And hope you don't get burnt on these plays this week. Normally, I do a best bet on a primetime game. I do a bet on Kelly's best bet game. But she's picked a primetime game for her best bet. So we're going to go all in and do one play for that and then my best bet. Let's go Jamar Chase, under 79.5 receiving yards for Thursday Night Football. So there's a few concerns here for Jamar Chase. So 2 weeks ago, only 41 yards against the Bills, and that was the game where he hurt his back. So we knew he was a little bit hobbled. He did play last week, and you look at the box score, 124 yards receiving, but he had a 64-yard catch on a blown coverage from Houston. Houston is not a good defensive team against the pass. You can throw all over them. Without that catch, he only had 60 yards, and last week, only 6 targets. That is his lowest amount of the year, and that is a game that it was a little bit of a shootout. Bengals needed to score. They scored 27 points, and he's only getting 6 targets. We got a short week, so not a full week to get that back healthy. There's no T. Higgins, and I think this is just going to be a lot easier for the Ravens to defend. They're probably going to go all out to try and stop Jamar Chase. He's by far their biggest weapon. Bengals are not running the ball great, and Baltimore only allows 173 yards passing per game. That's 4th best in the league. These primetime games tend to go to the under. That's been well documented. I think this number is really, really big. This number feels like we're assuming that Jamar Chase is 100%, and I just don't think he is, and I think it's going to be easier for the Ravens to lock him up and make everyone else try and beat him, especially without T. Higgins. So let's cash on Jamar Chase on Thursday night going under his receiving total. Let's look towards a best bet. We're just going to go to the always front-running Dallas Cowboys. Let's take over 27.5 on their team total. And yeah, I said it, they're front runners. This is not breaking news. They scored 40 points and 49 points against the Giants. They scored 30 against the Jets, 38 against New England, 43 against the Rams. You get it. How'd they do against San Francisco? 10 points. And 20 points against the Chargers. 23 against Philly. So they're blasting through this team total when they play on teams that they can beat up on. And you saw last week, they did not take the foot off the gas. They have CeeDee Lamb rushing for touchdowns. They have Dak throwing for 400-plus yards. And this is a Panthers team that just lost to the Bears that didn't even have Justin Fields as the quarterback. This is a team that gave up 27 points to the Colts and Gardner Minshew. And we may go back to that Texans game where they held the Houston Texans well under this total. But that was a game off of the bye. They had 2 weeks to get ready for this Houston Texans team. The 2 weeks before that bye week against good offenses, Miami, Detroit, they gave up 42 points in both of those games. I love getting this total just under 28 points, but I don't even think it's going to be close to 28 points. Wouldn't surprise me if the Dallas Cowboys run up the score again and get 30-plus points. So let's cash on Jamar Chase to go under his receiving total on Thursday Night Football. Let's take the Dallas Cowboys to go over their team total of 27.5, and we are running a flash special for 365 days worth of picks. We're running it at half price. This is a package that is normally $2,000. We're running it at $999. Use the promo code ANDY1000. That's ANDY1000. It gets all plays, all sports, all percentages. We are number 4 in total units gained for 2023. We're number 4 in total units gained over the last 365 days. Really proud of bringing in over 60 units this year in total profit. So you want to lock in 365 days for all sports. Just use the promo code ANDY1000. Take that $2,000 year pass, knock it down to $999. Good luck with all your bets. Kelly, hope you build an awesome sandcastle, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you to Andy Lang at Bump Sports on Twitter. Make sure you guys are giving him a follow because he gives out some of the best prop information either on X or Wager Talk's Instagram channel. We're going to kind of go back to Joe. I think he's a little busy over there getting high.
Well, Cal, actually, I'm a little too high right now heading into this week, and I'm going to focus on the Dolphins and the Raiders, saying, what? Wait a minute, how in the world? Well, before you call me too high here. I just want to let you know this was at 47.5, and look at where it is now, 46.5. And I understand why, because I do think the Raiders offensively, they're only going to be able to do one thing and one thing well, and that is run the ball. It also happens to be the one thing the Miami Dolphins defensively have not been great at. You've got the rookie quarterback, Aiden O'Connell, and congratulations beating the Jets. That is fantastic. That is wonderful. But yes, I do think heading to Miami in this spot's going to be a little bit difficult. Now, you're saying why? I mean, Miami should be able to put up 50, 55 points on him. And not necessarily thinking that's the case either. I don't like Miami coming out of a bye. Feels like it might be a little bit of a flat spot considering that they've got another game coming up right around Thanksgiving, or right after, I believe, Thanksgiving, coming up next week in a pretty important divisional battle there. So, listen, is Miami, can they win this game? Absolutely. Do I think they're going to do what they did to the Denver Broncos? Absolutely not. I think this is going to be a very controlled Miami Dolphins offense. I do think that Max Crosby and that defense are going to have some success disrupting the offense a little bit here. I don't see the Las Vegas Raiders scoring a whole lot of points in this one here to worry about this thing going up and over. But even if it's 32-10, guess what? We still are getting under this game at 46.5. So I would look there. I'd look at Vegas, maybe their team total under as well when those numbers start to pop up. But I am not believing this is a 50-point Miami Dolphin win by any stretch. I'm looking at the under in this one. It's a little bit too high for me this week.
Man, I have gained so much weight this football season, and it's all because of Marco and these damn sandwiches. Marco, can we get a trap game?
All right, guys. The deli's open. You smell something coming out of the kitchen. You're wondering what it is. It might not smell that good, but you know what? When it cashes, it'll be just fine. We're going to take a look at Carolina plus the points as the sandwich game of the week. We're going to take those 10.5 points, and this is all about the sandwich spot that we find Dallas in. We're going against them here. They are in a spot where they're coming off back-to-back division games. Now, granted, beating the New York Giants is nothing to write home about, especially with all of their injuries, but when you put up 49 points in doing so, and you win in a laugher 49-17, and you're yucking it up on the sidelines, yeah, I'm going to look to fade you. They also did that off of the Philadelphia game. We remember that game from 2 weeks ago. They did everything but beat the Philadelphia Eagles. That was a tough loss for them. So back-to-back division games. Now they're traveling on the road to play Carolina. But what's on the other side of this one? That's what makes the sandwich. They've got another division game. It's the Washington Commanders. And it's in 4 days. Yep, it's the annual Thanksgiving game for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, how do you get excited for the Carolina Panthers after you just laid a whooping on the Giants 49-17 and you've got that game on deck? This is one of those games as far as the Cowboys go. They just want to get in and then want to get out. Carolina, as bad as they've been, they have held 6 of their 9 opponents this year to 27 or fewer points. I don't see Dallas lighting it up in this one. As I said, the mission here is get this one over as soon as possible. Feature the running game. Don't take chances. Try not to get anybody hurt and come back for that Thursday game. And here is a key angle for you. This is a league-wide stat. In the NFL, play against road favorites who are outscoring their opponents by 10 points or more on the season if they are coming off a win of 10 points or more. If you blindly did this over the last 10 seasons in the NFL, how about 48-13 against the spread? That tells us the lineup on Carolina. I'm taking a big bite of Carolina plus 10.5 for the sandwich game of the week.
God, these barking dogs in the NFL have been so good to us this year. Marco, you're giving us a double-digit underdog for this week in the NFL?
All right, guys, I'm not going to insult your intelligence and tell you that this barking dog is going to win outright. But I am going to tell you this one's going to cover the number, and this one's going to be a lot closer than people think. And a little later in the show, you'll find out really just how close I think it will be when I get to my best bet. But for the barking dog, we are taking Tampa Bay. And last week, if you remember, our best bet on the show was San Francisco. And boy, did they deliver a 34-3 shutout win for us last week. And it was the perfect storm. We talk about it all the time. Teams that go into a bye week on a bad note, they generally use that time off to fix what ails them. And boy, did they ever. 3-game losing streak going in. They came out and played the perfect game in that one as they got the benefit of four Jacksonville turnovers last week, aided them in the win. Tampa Bay's coming in here. I look for Tampa Bay to keep this game close. Why? Well, San Francisco had that satisfying win last week, and now they're playing Tampa Bay. But look who is on the horizon for San Francisco. Yeah, I could have threw this one in the sandwich spot as well. They've got Seattle, the only team that really can cause them problems in the NFC West. That is a big game for them. They've got that on deck. What's the goal this week? You know what? You get in, you get out, and you move on to next week for the big game. And that's what I see happening. And San Francisco will ride that defense to win this game, but they're not going to win it by a lot. I see this as a close game. I have this as less than a touchdown with San Francisco coming on top. I'm getting a big number here, 11.5. Yeah, give me Tampa Bay plus those points. This one's going to be a lot closer than people think. Tampa Bay doesn't turn the football over. This is a team that takes care of the football. Only a couple times this year have they had more than one turnover in a game. Give me Tampa Bay plus 11.5. They cash as our barking dog. I'm going a little hesitant on the sprinkle this week, though. I feel the 49ers do get the win.
Joe Raineri, I know you and Marco have a size thing with your dogs, but I just don't think you can replicate this one.
Watch out for this week's barking dog. Not going to lie, it is ugly. And yes, I am going to Lambeau Field to do the unthinkable. I'm going to back the Green Bay Packers. Again, I backed them last week, and an extra point screwed me here, but I think we did learn a couple of things about both the Packers and the Chargers, in fact. And I do think not a great spot for the Chargers as they have to go back on the road. They came off the road. They had that game sandwiched last week against Detroit. Now they got to pack up, come out to Lambeau here in a spot which weather doesn't appear like it's going to be all that great. And we've got a home dog here of Green Bay, and I think we learned a little something about the Green Bay Packers offense. A healthy Aaron Jones makes all the difference in the world here. They very well, on the road, could have and should have won that game against the Pittsburgh Steelers because they certainly outgained them. And don't call me crazy, but the Steelers defense, a hell of a lot better than what the Chargers are going to bring to the table, who once again just got lit up like a Christmas tree against the Detroit Lions at home. I think this will set up to be exactly the kind of game that Green Bay will be able to take advantage of. I think they're going to run the football. They're going to be able to take some shots on the outside. And I think the Green Bay defense will have Jair Alexander back in the secondary, and they have become as one-dimensional as humanly possible here. They're going to throw it to Keenan Allen. I think Green Bay knows that. I think we all know that. It's only going one place when he drops back. It's the only guy he trusts on the field, and I do think with Jair Alexander in the secondary back for the Green Bay Packers, I think they will limit his ability there to be able to catch the ball every down. So give me the home dog in a terrible spot here for a reeling Chargers team who can't seem to buy a win in a one-score game and can't win at home. I don't think they're going to win on the road at Lambeau either. So I'm backing the Packers as this week's barking dog.
Joe, even though your dog was not as big as Marco's, I still think they have a great chance to win outright. Now we're going to pivot, bring in Las Vegas Chris. But first, I wanted to remind you guys, this is the last week of his 2023 special. That is just over $7 per day. Since 2022, professional better Las Vegas Chris up almost 119 units in profit for his clients. Right now, this is the last week. You get the rest of the year promotion for just $3.99. That means you get every release, every sport, every 5% best bet that Chris plays from today until December 31st, 2023. And of course, that's all of his college selections where he has just been hitting at an amazing clip. 8.6 return on investment, over 57% on 578 games. Chris, how do you do it, my man?
Thanks, Kelly. Frankly, I didn't even realize I was doing that well in college football because I pay too much attention to NFL. So I work very hard at the NCAA, and I've added totals to my system this year, and those are going great. I've got specials with NFL and college combined, but enough of that crap. Let's get to the subject matter. Last week, I failed you guys. I gave you guys losing teasers. I suggested Baltimore. They lost again outright. Another situation where they're a 90% probability of winning and they lose. Nevertheless, let's go on. It's a new week. I wanted to touch base on several different things. Number one, I touched on this before, but we hear it over and over again. You can't tease through zero. But you know what? This Baltimore game Thursday night is the perfect time to tease through zero on a 7-point teaser. And you guys have to remember, if you're teasing, whether it be any numbers, 3, 7, 6, or 6, 7, 10-point teasers, you always have to pretty much go through the key numbers. You certainly need to go through 3 and 7 for sure. So you can't tease to the 3 or to the 7. Remember that. Live it, learn it. Anyway, Baltimore, 7-point teaser. That's a perfect spot. One of the rarer times that you can go through zero, but that does pretty well. So what I do, since it's an isolated game, instead of betting the game straight at all, I just put it all into 7-point teasers, and I spider them into 3 or 4 plays I'm going to make Sunday anyway. If Baltimore wins, I've got all that extra value into the other plays. I bet it a little bit more because I'm getting extra value. And if it loses, I just bet the Sunday games like I would have. Second game to pair that up with, a couple of choices are out there this week, but I like you with Detroit -0.5 or -1. They're coming home. I think that they're going to have a little tougher time than they have recently, but I think they're going to win this game. So I do like that for a great teaser this week. I want to touch on 10-point teasers this week because there are so many double-digit favorites this week. In the past, I've reminded you, and I'm going to remind you again, check your house rules for all your teasers and make sure that you understand that house rules on 6 and 7 and 6.5-point teasers are different than they are for 10 and 13-point teasers. So make sure you read the differences. Some places are going to automatically make you lose on a push. Some places don't. Some places will be a push and a win is a push out. A push and a loss is a loss. So you want to know the differences. And if you have ties lose on push, does that make those shops useless? No. You just have to know that ahead of time and try to key in on half-point games and such. So they still can be useful. The prices on those 3-pointers can be those 10-pointers can be -110, -120, -130. I'm sure places charge even more than that. So you want to shop those prices also. I want to just quickly point out this week, since there are so many double-digit opportunities, what to do and what not to do on those. Miami up to 13, 13 and a half. That's not a good 10-point teaser. You don't want to take that down to 3 or 3.5. I'm going to give some examples of some other ones you might not consider that I use. I'm not playing it, but Pittsburgh at plus 11.5. If you get past that 11, that's a consideration. Jacksonville, if you have a 6.5, you can take that to plus 3.5. That is one that I used. Dallas down to a half or 1. That's a good one. San Francisco down to 1.5 or 2. That's a good one. Two other ones that you might not consider that I like, Minnesota and Philadelphia from the 2.5 to the 12.5. Those are all ones that I would consider. Totals. When you get to 10-point range, you can start to consider totals a little bit, and you have a low total in that Giants-Washington game. And I'm going to point out an anomaly that is out there. There's a total out there that is 32. Which game is that? I forget. I'm so disorganized. Anyway, I think it's I lost it. Anyway, there's a total out there where it's 33 everywhere. Must be the Steelers-Browns. Steelers-Browns is 33 everywhere, but BetOnline has it at 32 with juice on the total. So what you can do in that situation is think teaser, and you get an extra point of value on that. And you can go over 22 because whatever that price is that they have, they're doing it on teasers also, even though it's an off price. They did the same thing on Monday night with that total, and that worked out very well for me because I used that coming the other way. The market was 47.5. They had a 46. I took it over 36, which went through a lot of key numbers on totals. So you can find ways to elongate your value if you're searching out those little nuggets of off lines that some of these books will put out, and they're not thinking people are going to hit them on teasers as much. So with that in mind, 3-team teaser that I like San Francisco minus 2.5 or 1.5, I'm sorry. And I like Dallas minus 0.5. I think that they're going to win. And I like Minnesota, winners of 6 out of 7. They haven't lost a game all season by more than 7. And I think Denver's very good, but I think it's going to be tighter than a 12-point game. So Dallas, San Francisco, Minnesota's the 3-teamer, and Baltimore, Detroit is the 2-teamer, 7 points. Everybody, I hope you have good luck this week.
As always, thank you to Las Vegas Chris. If you guys have a question for him, drop it in the comments section. Now we're going to bring in another professional gambler, Gianni the Greek, at Greek_gambler on Twitter. I wanted to give you guys a chance to get 25% off anything and everything VR. That is daily packages, yearly packages, whatever you want. Coupon code ACE25. All right, VR, give us your week 11. My goodness, I can't believe it. NFL Golds.
All right, guys, we are ready to go in the NFL. Real quickly, remember, practice proper bet sizing. That's more important than any pick anyone will ever give you or any you come up with yourself. Without proper bet sizing, it's all useless. Proper bet sizing is why I'm sitting at plus 200 units going into this weekend. And thank you for so many of you that have jumped on. I know the NFL's been really good of late. Stay selective. Stay selective. Here we go. First off, let's knock out the top 5 offensive and defensive passing success rates in the NFL, adjusted for strength of schedule. Offense in order of strength: San Francisco, Detroit, Buffalo, Miami, and Dallas. On the defensive side of the ball, Cleveland, KC, Baltimore, New York Jets, and New Orleans. These teams have combined to cash over 56% against the spread. I know it ain't 60, it isn't 65, but that's profit, and that's all that matters. One of the best correlations to finding some value that I know of. Let's move on to some sides and totals. Thursday night football, over. First half at 21.5, game at 46. Bucking the trend is what the Sharps are doing. I haven't touched that game myself. Move on to Sunday's action. 312, Baltimore minus 3. Baltimore minus 3, minus 125. keep this in mind. It's 3.5 minus 110 now. 3.5 minus 110 is equal to 3 minus 135. So anything less, you know what to do. Anything more than that, you're getting to work if you're going to follow. Move on to 4-5-1, the Pittsburgh Steelers, plus 4.5, plus 3.5. Down the plus, got to be some kind of injuries I haven't dug into yet. Not a game I have been any interest in yet. Move down to 464. Miami Dolphins minus 10. Dolphins minus 11. Dolphins minus 12. All of this came on Monday and Tuesday, along with the under. So they are expecting the Dolphins to shut them down defensively and put up enough points to cover a double-digit spread, because they went under 48.5, under 47.5. And it's multiple groups that I'm talking about that hit both the side and the total in that one. Then move down to 470. The LA Rams plus 3 and plus 2.5. So it didn't matter about the key number there. We're willing to take the Rams at 2.5. Move down to game 476. I didn't even write down the side. Under 48.5. Oh, it's a Monday Night Football. I'm sorry. Under Monday Night Football. The first hit got under 48.5, but that wasn't the guys I was working with. Again, I share stuff with other runners and movers that I know. They get stuff from the groups I work with. I get stuff from the groups they work with. Guys they work with started getting down at under 48.5. I didn't see none of that. I saw something on Monday morning at under 46.5. So even after it moved through 47.5, a plus CV long-term winning group told me 46.5 base, still not high enough, under. And finally, I have good confirmation that Kansas City will be a move. Surprised, haven't laid the 2.5 yet, but Kansas City does look like a side. Just sharing that. Again, whether you call or fade, I hope you just use the information to turn a profit. Best of luck this weekend and the holiday next week. A ton of great stuff to get involved in with such a saturation. Recreational bettors who are off for 4 days, there is so much value to extract because they knock some of those lines out of whack. And when you have an influx of that kind of money in the marketplace, unsophisticated, sorry to put it that way, rest assured, we're going to find some value. Best of luck this weekend.
Always appreciate VR bringing us that NFL gold. Again, that coupon code is ACE25 to get 25% off anything Ace related. We're going to get right into these best bets because this Wi-Fi may give out at any second. And we're going Thursday Night Football. I'll tell the production team to get this one up early because that's exactly what this one is going to be. It's going to be an early play on the Ravens. Ravens first half minus 2.5. Now, I know I traditionally don't do this, but the Ravens have been the most frustrating team in the second half for their backers. 79-16 in the first quarter of the season. They have been throttling teams. But why can't they hold on to a lead? Especially with that defense. Either way, I don't trust them to not blow it again late on Thursday night. So I'm going to expect them also to go after Joe Burrow and not play prevent defense, at least in the first half. Cincinnati's offensive line has allowed Burrow to just get throttled as of late. He got sacked 4 times against Houston. So I'm taking that better defense, but I'm laying it in the first half. Ravens minus 2.5. Marco, who is your best bet for this week in the NFL?
All right, guys, before I get to today's NFL best bet, I want to give you guys a special and a little plug for college football bet on it show. Best bets have been fantastic. Another sweep last week by the three of us with our best bets. But guys, yours truly, we are trying to make it 11 in a row on my college best bets. If you haven't tuned in to the college football show, I would highly advise you do so. And if you have been tuning in and know how we've been crushing it all year in college football, I've got a special offer for you. You could pick up all of my college football right through the national championship game on January 8th for the special price of $175. The regular price on that is $299. It's a fantastic offer. And yes, you get every college football play, the final 3 weeks of the regular season, all the bowl games, and those 5% college major wagers. You get it all, $175. Enough about that. Just head over to my homepage to check out that special. let's get to the NFL best bet. And we nailed it last week with the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to stay in that game. We already gave you a play on that game earlier in the show, but my best bet for the show is the total in that game. And we're going to look at the under in that one. And last week, we saw the 49ers. They were back. That 2 weeks off, the bye week, that rectified all the problems that they had in that 3-game losing streak. Mainly in that 3-game losing streak, they were injured. They got healthy. They got the key people back. And now they're ready to roll for the second half of the season. But what's on deck for the 49ers is probably their biggest game of the season as far as the division goes. The Seattle Seahawks are the only team that stands between them and winning the division. And they have a showdown with them next week. They're coming off that big game last week against Jacksonville. They shut down Jacksonville. Jacksonville turned the football over 4 times in that game. That aided in the 34 points that the 49ers scored. We know about the defense. The offense, well, it looks like it's back with the 34. But let's be honest. When you get 4 turnovers, you're going to score some points. And if you look at the point production by the 49ers in the 3 previous games, granted they had injuries, but still 17, 17, 17, 3 games in a row. I look for another low-scoring game. You're going to see a dominant defense. You're going to see a 49er offense that's going to be content to run the football, kill clock, get everybody in and out with no injuries, and get ready for that big showdown next week with Seattle. Here's a couple stats for you, too, with Tampa Bay. They don't turn the football over. Only a couple games this year have they had more than 1 turnover in a game. They take care of the football. That's key against the 49ers. Don't give them any short fields. Also, look at Tampa Bay. The last 2 seasons, 19-8, all games to the under. And when they're playing an NFC team, how about 15-4 to the under? And then here's one for you. This is a league-wide stat for the totals. If you look at the 49ers, any team, the San Francisco, play any team when the total is between 35.5 and 42 points in a conference game if they are coming off a double-digit road win. That's what the 49ers are doing. If you blindly played that angle in the NFL the last 10 years, how about 49 unders, just 19 overs? We're going to go ahead and make San Francisco or Tampa Bay under 42 our NFL best bet.
These best bets have been so good to you guys all season long. Can you please jump in the comments and give us just a tiny bit of love? It helps our YouTube algorithm, even if it's a negative comment, because I don't read them anyway. Joe Raineri, I need your best bet for NFL Week 11.
All right, well, this week's best bet, I think, is going to be interesting with the overreaction and the love affair here of the public with the Houston Texans, who did the unthinkable. They went into Cincinnati and upended the Bengals thanks to Taj Boyd, but that's a whole different story. They still won the game, even though C.J. Stroud threw an interception that he shouldn't have thrown. But the bottom line is they won the game, and now everyone loves the Houston Texans. And, oh, yeah, the Arizona Cardinals, they, too, had a pretty big triumphant return of one Kyler Murray. And I said it last week, and it bears repeating. I didn't understand why the Cardinals would be bringing back Kyler Murray unless they knew 100% that he was fully healthy and ready to go. Otherwise, it didn't make any sense bringing him back into that game against Atlanta. And oh yeah, they got Connor back now in the running game. They got Wilson back, their rookie wide receiver. They actually have gotten healthier now on the defensive side of the ball. So all of a sudden, this Arizona team that was a punching bag early on, not so much a punching bag anymore. But you know what they are and what Houston isn't anymore? Well, Arizona is a dog. And now Houston is expected to win, which is a far cry from all of the other great wins that they have had here where they were not expected to win. Now the market is running and betting them 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5 is what we've seen in the marketplace here. So I'm not buying it. It's one thing if you want to back Houston as a dog. It's a whole different thing. You want to lay 4.5, 5 points with them. I don't. I think Kyler Murray is a totally different challenge than anything Houston has seen thus far. Joe Burrow, I love him, but Joe Burrow is a pocket quarterback who, gets outside every now and then. What I saw last week against Atlanta with Kyler Murray, that is vintage, 100% healthy Kyler Murray. That kind of quarterback is going to be a nightmare for this secondary, which is a little bit backed up here, by the way, for a little banged up, rather, heading into this game while Arizona is getting all of their pieces back. I like Arizona all day long. I'm going to take those points, and I'm going to sprinkle a little something on the money line for the Cardinals this week as my best bet.
All right, let's get that recap graphic here on the screen from our production team. Thank you to all of you who hang out with us every single week here on Bet On It, even when we're on crappy third world country Wi-Fi. We love you all. And until next week, from Joe, Marco, VR, Chris, Andy, Ralph, let's bet on it.